so Retrospectives-Be-Damned is going to be wrapping up soon. We've been on a fun ride through a lot of retrospectives, but I feel like it's time to finish up and move on to other things. So, with that said, including this one, we have 3 episodes left. So, with a limited time on the clock, I've been carefully selecting topics to cover per episode. And this episode's topic is so large, it's actually a 2-parter. Which means it takes up the slot of 2 of the 3 episodes. My friends, we will finally talk about my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Much like that 2-parter I did on my top 10 favorite games of all time, I have to stress that my top 10s of anything, really, are always evolving and changing. So this list, while valid as of 2022, will probably change in the near future. For now, though, let's get this show on the road. My number 10 is Clueless. I've always loved the teen high school genre, and there are so many movies that have nailed the formula to making a successful film from that genre. The one that I still feel is the best of that bunch from the first time I watched it back in the 90s to now is Clueless. I mean,
it's the bomb, you know what I'm saying?
There are a ton of reasons it's my number 10. The great music, its depiction of the evolution of the teenager in the 90s, the great comedic timing of a lot of its jokes, the cartoony feel it has at times, and even its snappy and clever dialogue. All are valid reasons to like the movie, but what really makes me love it is the way the story slowly presents itself. For most of the film, you're on board with Brittany Murphy's character Ty being the basis for the movie's title, Clueless. They even say,
"She is so adorably clueless."
And it leaves you with no doubt that's what the story is all about. Then as the story evolves, the movie's like, nope, it's Alicia Silverstone. And you're like, oh shit, it's Cher. It becomes a lot more obvious on repeat viewings, or even initial viewings for some folks, on this big plot switch. But it's in good fun, and something I don't often see in the teen movie genre. Also, I am a sucker for happy endings, and Clueless ends on a happy note that makes me really feel good every time I watch it. It's what finally made me understand the phrase feel-good movie. Number 9 is The Death of Superman Lives. Back in the 90s, Warner Brothers was looking to bring back their Superman movie franchise, and through some trial and error, settled on Tim Burton directing a Nicolas Cage-led Superman movie that was to be called Superman Lives. The only problem was, the movie never happened. It was cancelled before its 1998 release date and became the stuff of unmade movie legends. This film, The Death of Superman Lives: What Happened, is a documentary about that Superman Lives film from the 90s and, well, what happened? The moment the film begins, you are sucked in. The documentary just gives you a big bear hug of an opening, and then takes you along for a drive that you enjoy the whole way. I love what could have been type of stories, especially with films. Movies that end up being delayed to the point of being stuck in development hell, as folks have labeled, usually have fascinating stories behind them. This one, of course, is one of those stories, but it also really takes the time to give you an idea of the personalities of each of the main people that are being interviewed. As we move through the pre-production portion of Superman Lives in the documentary, you start to lose interviewees. Because as the development continued, they were no longer a part of it. But the story still goes on. By the time the documentary is finished, you feel almost as if you've watched the movie, or at least had been a fly on the wall for the entire development process. That's how thorough The Death of Superman Lives goes through each phase of the Superman Lives project. And as such, this is my favorite documentary. If you have not watched it yet, do yourself a favor and give it a go. Even if you're not a big Superman fan, it really gives you an excellent idea of what goes on when making a big budget production of a film, from the perspective of various sections of the developmental process. Number 8 is Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. I remember back in 1997, my family and I were vacationing in Miami, Florida, and on one particular night we decided to go see a movie at a local AMC theater. While we were looking at the movie posters to get an idea of what to see, my mom pointed at the movie poster for Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery and said she had seen a clip of it on TV and that the movie looked hilarious. My whole family ended up watching it that night, and I am still quoting this movie to this day. In fact, I had a real obsession with Austin Powers as a kid. I remember we were on a 1-hour car ride going somewhere, and I quoted the entire movie from beginning to end. I am not exaggerating. My parents kept encouraging me to keep quoting the movie since I kept getting everything right, so I did. Viewing the movie now as an adult, I can tell you that what I love about it is that while all the overplayed jokes still hit really well, I am a firm admirer of the jokes no one talks about from that movie. Things like,
and a factory in Chicago that makes miniature models of factories.
That said, while number 2 is showcasing all the investments Verchicon owns that are all represented as miniature models on a map. Jokes like those in the movie are never mentioned, and I just love them. This first Austin Powers movie has a pure feel to it in comparison to the other 2 films that I really appreciate to this day. Number 7 is Terminator 2: Judgment Day. To say that this is the best action movie of all time is a hell of an understatement. T2 is just so damn good. It single-handedly covers all of the great moments from the action movie genre in such an excellent way. Even though it was a rated R movie, my parents would let me watch it as a kid, and I loved it. I got really into the hero robot idea, and thought it was just so damn cool. In comparison, watching Terminator 1 as a kid was weird, since the T-800 was evil, and I was so used to him being good, since honestly I watched T2 way more than T1. As an adult, I feel T2 is better than the first movie, but I still appreciate the first Terminator movie for what it is. The 2 movies collectively tell an excellent story that has since been, extended and mutilated by the later films in the series. The story of T2, and by extension T1, is so epic, and despite its dated, apocalyptic end-of-the-world time frame, is timeless in terms of said storytelling. Also, Edward Furlong is excellent in the movie. He was one of those rare great child actors that most people believe delivered a great performance in the movie. There is so much more I could keep talking about over why this movie is in my top 10, but instead, I'll just bask in that thumbs up ending. I still feel it, man. Number 6 is The Avengers. This film was a huge deal at the time of its release. The hype of a shared universe, of all the films preceding it, leading up to a major team-up, was a big deal that had never been done before. We had Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, and Captain America the First Avenger keep giving us little nuggets of hints over this explosive team-up movie that was on the horizon. From 2008 until 2012, the wait for The Avengers was palpable. And when it came out with a huge bang that we all felt in our theater seats. Now, years later, after the shine is worn off, The Avengers is still a really great team movie. All of the characters in the film have great arcs that not only feel completed by the end of the film, but also play off of past movies and prepare the characters for future movies. Essentially, it makes you feel glad for doing your homework and watching the old movies, while also leaving you wanting more, but also feeling satiated. That's a hard thing to do. I truly feel that this film, Superman the Motion Picture, Deadpool, and Spider-Man 2, the Tobey Maguire one, are essential superhero films to watch before making one of your own. The adaptations and general filmmaking in those films are just peak for the genre. Speaking of peak, honestly, this is where Joss Whedon did just that. To me, this was his last great project, because he peaked. He put all of his creativity on the line, and it paid off. Though, sadly, it's been downhill for him ever since, both creatively and personally, in my opinion. And that's where we will stop today, my friends. Next episode, we will cover my top 5 favorite movies of all time as we continue to wrap up Retrospectives-Be-Damned. See you then.